Yeah, wait for action.
Oh, sorry.
Hi everyone. I am so pleased you could join us today for our big announcement. Augmented reality is having a major impact across a wide variety of industries, from manufacturing to medical devices, to semiconductor, to data centers, to industrial equipment, to use cases as varied as assembly, to maintenance, to training. We're improving the efficiency of the operations of some of the most respected and innovative businesses in the world. In 2011, Scope AR was the first to show a real-world use case of augmented reality. And back then, we thought it was cool, but we really had no idea of the impact it would ultimately have. In 2016, we launched the first authoring platform to create scalable instructional content. This was the first platform to be easy to use with a drag and drop interface to really enable content creation at scale. And our customers have had tremendous success using this platform to create their content. But it still didn't go far enough. We have discovered that creating content in augmented reality, just like any content, is a pipeline lifecycle with many different contributors. Every organization has multiple silos of knowledge with different roles contributing. You've got process engineers, mechanical engineers, service managers, instructors, quality assurance. Each of these roles brings unique knowledge to the table, and that knowledge needs to be combined to ultimately create the most effective set of instructions for a frontline worker. The more effectively you can combine that knowledge, the more effectively that process can be optimized. And we looked at some of our customers' key challenges and tried to solve them. The first challenge is they struggled to get up and running quickly. They struggled to wield the power of the tools that we had given them. And finally, 3D modeling is complex. And there are just some things that break down when you get out of those innovative, simple prototypes and into the complex, real-world AR use cases. And that's why we think that what we have created over the past year and a half is going to change everything. I am so proud to announce the all-new WorkLink Create. Roll the video.
Just finishing that development phase, moving into production, where we'll be launching Orion about once a year. We're using mixed reality technologies to benefit our programs, requirements, and challenges so that we can produce spacecraft at lower cost with higher quality.
Really is a key to unlocking the human being doing that operation, their ability to creatively contribute to improving the way that that is done.
With the new WorkLink Create, you can get started quickly, right in your browser. That means no complex software to install and support, no nasty licensing to navigate, and it also means that it makes it very easy to add an additional contributor to your project. In addition to starting quickly, we've created tools that supercharge productivity. That means that any subject matter expert in any industry can easily create knowledge in augmented reality with what they already have, with no coding required. And finally, you can author instructions directly on your source CAD. What that means is you can use your CAD directly without any pre-processing. That also means that you can update your source CAD and use it without having to update your work instructions. If we're going to see augmented reality have the impact we know it can, the future lies in powerful, accessible authoring. And with the new WorkLink Create, this changes everything. And now I'd like to turn it over to David to speak about our customer use cases.
We all know the technology is amazing, but what really excites me is the customer. It's not about hype, it's about value and real use cases. When I think about one of our longest standing customers, Lockheed Martin, who we've worked with for the last 6 years, it's been an incredible journey. They could have focused on so many different things, but they actually selected specific use cases that had real problems, that were measurable and repeatable. It's been an incredible journey, actually as highlighted by Satya Nadella in a recent Microsoft conference, where he talked about the huge impact this is having right now on the manufacturing of the Orion shuttle.
Orion is the only spacecraft that can take humans into deep space, like the moon and to Mars. We're just finishing that development phase, moving into production, where we'll be launching Orion about once a year. We're using mixed reality technologies to benefit our programs, requirements, and challenges so that we can produce spacecraft at lower costs with higher quality and less time. For Orion, we're using mixed reality to assemble the crew seat. When a technician puts on a HoloLens, they instantly see the work instruction instead of having to go through stacks of rectangular data, whether it's paper or another form of a screen. It understands the environment. It's anchored to the structure, and that allows us to place content within the environment. Being able to see the same design together and look through different options allows us to make those decisions more quickly. With every activity, we're seeing significant reductions in touch labor. We see increases in quality. What we found was that we could take an 8-hour activity and reduce it down to 45 minutes. We see a reduction in cost. We haven't had a single error that's been documented, which is really exciting. We're partnering with Scope AR, who's using Azure Mixed Reality services to bring all of this to life. Mixed reality allows us to move more quickly from concept and design, spanning into tests and operations, and possibly even for astronauts in space.
We're really excited to see what the future holds for Lockheed Martin in their use of augmented reality. We also work with an exciting new customer, ClickBond. For those of you who don't know who ClickBond is, they have an innovative way of fastening large pieces of equipment together. What's really exciting is they've got high-value use cases that span across a wide array of industries, from aerospace and marine and automotive. ClickBond CEO Carl Hutter is inspiring when he talks about how augmented reality is going to change their organization and their customers.
I'm Carl Hutter, President and CEO of ClickBond. ClickBond's in the business of supporting those who design, build, and maintain what we call high-performance platforms around the world. Now that's predominantly in aerospace, but also things that swim, things that roll. It's not just things with wings. And the way that we predominantly do that is by eliminating the need to drill holes in perfectly good materials, and instead use that intersection between adhesives and mechanical fastening to allow new possibilities by assembling aircraft and other platforms in new ways.
So my name's John Elverum. I'm the Director of Field Application Engineering here at ClickBond and the Chief of Technology for Advanced Systems, which has led us into augmented reality. In a lot of complex aerospace systems, there's no economical way to convert it and have a robot. You're not going to have a robot build the next spacecraft 100% and all of a sudden it's on the ramp ready to fly. You have to have humans. So now how are you going to make the humans do their part just as good as the subsections that were made by a robot? So to keep track of all that yourself would be very hard, and it's way too easy then to try to think you know it and make a mistake. So augmented reality lets you keep up to date because you've got this thing kind of looking over your shoulder telling you exactly what to do at the right time and in the right way, and you're not relying on your memory or something.
Well, and we live in a day and age right now that technology is at your fingertips. So everybody is getting used to having a screen in front of you, having that data. So what we're doing is putting it in front of the end user in a way that is very easy for them to understand.
I think that as our company's evolved over the last 32 years, we've recognized something super important. It's enabling people to be more creative, to be more productive, to do better work, and focus the human effort on the parts that humans need to be able to do, which is being creative and solving problems.
Right, so one of the cool things about WorkLink Create is previously we would take a piece of CAD and do a ton of pre-processing on it before it actually got into the authoring stage.
No, it's awesome being able to not have to worry about that processing, not having to spend the time kind of editing models out of SolidWorks. So just being able to go from SolidWorks to authoring saves us an enormous amount of time. It's crazy.
It is just amazing to be at a point in my career and in our journey where the needs of our industry, the use case, if you will, overlap and intersect with the availability of the right technology, and more important than either of those two, the right partner. And Scope AR has been an amazing partner. We have engaged with common customers. I think inspired some excitement there, and I really think it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of where we can take this.
Scope AR is built for critical productivity and performance when it matters. We all lived through a challenging year in 2020. Looking outside of the air defense industry, we see other organizations in different industries like medical devices and data centers faced with critical challenges, and Scope AR was there to help. Even before the pandemic, one of our customers, Beckman Coulter, was using augmented reality to help train and onboard new employees. During the pandemic, they also engaged in remote assistance to make sure that their experts could share their knowledge with workers in the field when and where they need it. Johnson & Johnson, another customer who's using augmented reality in similar ways to improve efficiency within their organization. In Japan, another customer, NTT Data, is also using augmented reality to help train and onboard new employees, as well as improve efficiency within the data centers themselves. They're planning to scale this out to 17 data centers in the near future. Those are examples of a few of our customers with great use cases. We have many other customers who consider augmented reality to be a strategic advantage, but unfortunately can't share their use cases quite yet. In a general sense, however, we're seeing great data points with customers seeing a break-even point on their investment in 2 to 3 months, improved competency of workforce when trained using augmented reality of up to 40%, and often a 50% reduction in training time when using augmented reality. One thing we know for sure is when the use case is well selected, the value is there. I'd like to pass it off to Aaron, our VP of Product.
Thank you, David. I'm Aaron DeYonker, VP of Product at Scope AR. As Scott and David have shown, WorkLink Create is the most powerful point of genesis for creating 3D experiences. Built on Three.js and leveraging the power of WebGL, it is the most powerful authoring tool there is. Up until now, content creation has been the biggest barrier to expansion. With WorkLink Create, anybody can be an author, no coding required. Just imagine the possibilities of enabling widespread adoption for content creation at enterprise scale. No software downloads, no administrative overhead. And as you've seen firsthand, this technology has become critical for some of the most demanding industries on and off the planet. This is what WorkLink does. You create 3D content, you follow work instructions, and you connect in 3D with experts. Behind that is a public or private cloud service powering your 3D content management, providing you complete administrative control, and managing all of your integrations with your enterprise systems. This single platform allows for end-to-end military-grade security, which helps ensure protection of your valuable data. Our analytics engine captures data throughout the lifecycle, providing valuable insights on efficiency, quality, operations, competency, and predictive maintenance. And with last year's release of the WorkLink API, we've enabled integrations across a number of enterprise systems to truly integrate into your organizational and operational workflows. Manufacturing execution, field service management, learning management. Whether your end-to-end workflows start or finish with these systems, WorkLink helps close the loop. This architecture is what allows state-of-the-art collaboration that all of us are getting used to with tools like Box, Google Docs, Dropbox, and others. Real-time group editing, version control, automatic saves are all ubiquitous to highly productive teams, and now it comes to augmented reality. Cross-functional teams can collaborate to author complex assembly instructions and push out to all of their technicians in near real time. This is what makes this release so special. You can literally take any 3D CAD, import it, publish it, and distribute it in a matter of seconds to any device. Consider the power that this offers. And now I'm going to turn it over to our co-founder, Graham Melly, to give you a demo of WorkLink Create.
I'm Graham Melly, co-founder of Scope AR, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to the all-new WorkLink Create. My goal today is to give you a sense for what it takes to turn images, text, video, and 3D content into easy-to-understand augmented reality projects. Before I start though, I'm going to grab a mobile device, I'm going to load the WorkLink app, and I'm going to give you a sense of what we're going to create here today. After logging into my organization, I can see any instructions that have been shared with me or my team. Once shared with me, I can view these instructions on any supported device, smartphone, tablet, or wearable. I'm going to load this ventilator example and tap to drop it in my environment here. As you can see, I'm now able to visualize this equipment as if it was right here in the room with me. As you can see, the instructions are fully 3D and animated, which lets you show your users how to do things instead of just trying to explain them with text. When it makes sense, including images and video can also be a huge help, maybe from your existing training materials. You can also build in menu structures, warnings, and prompt your user to respond to questions to validate their knowledge or confirm how work has been completed. In fact, these instructions can do anything a custom-made training app can do, but these instructions can be made without any coding, scripting, or development experience whatsoever. Anyone can learn to make these instructions in just a few hours using the all-new WorkLink Create. I'm going to use my Windows laptop here today, and I'm going to show you the experience exactly as it would be for a brand new user or author, since that's what we call instruction creators. I'm going to launch a new Chrome window, although I could use Microsoft Edge or pretty much any other Chromium-based browser. Enter in the address create.scopear.com and enter my login credentials. And I'm now able to load an existing authoring project or start a new one. I'll start a new one. No download, no install, no other software required. With WorkLink Create, you can execute the complete authoring process from importing your content to publishing the finished product right here in this browser window. This means I can author in the cloud from a different computer at any time, including a Mac, and I can easily share authoring duties with a coworker without any file transfers. But we'll get to that. The first thing I want to do to start my instruction project is to open up my asset library. The personal assets section here is where I can upload and store any content I want to access while making my projects, like this image I'm going to need today. Once I've uploaded something to this area, I can use it in any of my projects at any time, but only I have access to it. By dragging it down into the company assets section, I can choose to share it with others in my organization. The company assets section also contains standard content that Scope AR provides because it's useful in a lot of different projects like basic tools, arrows, and posable hands. To get started on a brand new project though, I want to bring in a 3D model of my subject material. This is the best way to take full advantage of what Create can do, and there are a lot of ways to do that. Create accepts the industry's standard polygon or mesh-based models you may be familiar with, such as FBX or OBJ, which means you can support existing workflows as well as have access to a lot of shared content on the open market, as well as the freedom to use interesting new capabilities like scanning 3D models from reality with just your phone. But what's truly groundbreaking is that Create can import your 3D CAD models directly. It's really just that easy. SolidWorks, Creo, JT, AutoCAD, Revit, Inventor, you name it, native formats or step file exports. I've got a step file here out of SolidWorks. I'm going to just drag and drop into my assets to demonstrate. And after a few minutes of processing, it's ready to work with. Your complete file with its full assembly, ready to go. The ventilator we want to work with is a SolidWorks native assembly, and I've already got a file here based on that, ready to go here in my personal assets. I'll just drop it right into my scene. As you can see, the model looks great, and I can see the full assembly with all its individual parts represented here in my step hierarchy. That means I have the ability to take it apart and use those components to give my users really detailed instructions about how to build, repair, or work with this equipment right here in Create. For a quick demonstration today, I'm going to jump right in and start setting up an overview step like we saw earlier with some basic callouts. I'll just select one of these indicators on the panel and open up the Object Properties window. As you can see, I get access to a lot of options, but for now, I'm going to minimize some of these that I don't need and start by enabling the callout option. Because this is a smaller object, I'll set a smaller size for this callout. Then set a position by defining the offset from the object. Then I can enter the title text and some additional detail. I have full control over the color and transparency, but the defaults work pretty well for me here, I think. There are a few more main elements on the main interface panel, so I'll lean on the fast forward button as I add those, but this won't take more than 5 minutes. Okay, I've got a pretty solid start here, but I want to show you how easy it is to add additional objects to the step. I'm going to go back to the asset library, to the company assets area, and browse back to some of the supplied objects that come with Create. I'm going to pull one of these arrows into the scene to help me very clearly show the airflow associated with these ventilator ports. I'm going to drag that right into the scene, and now I can adjust the position, rotation, and scale using the mouse, or I can quickly use the alignment tool to make sure the position is accurate, or go back to the Object Properties window to quickly type in position, rotation, or scale settings if that works for the situation. While I'm in the Properties window, I'm also going to go down to the Materials section and make this arrow a little brighter, a little easier to see. Now that I'm happy with the look, I'm going to duplicate this, rotate it, and place it on the other port, and I've completed a simple overview step for this device. I'm going to use my quick access panel here to name this step Overview Step. I can use this area to quickly add and select steps and sequences to move around a project, but I want to add a menu and some animated instructions, so I'm going to show you the sequence editor where that kind of thing is a little more visual. As you can see right now, we've got a project with one sequence that contains one step. If all we wanted was to make this quick overview available for the team as a quick reference, maybe just to load into support calls, then we could go ahead and publish this as is. But Create can do a lot more than that. So let's make a few options for our user. I want this overview to be just one option out of 3. So I'm going to bring this down here and call it Overview. And make a new sequence called Menu, and a new sequence for instruction called Remove Battery. Next, I'm going to rename this single step in the menu sequence to Menu, and the single step in the Remove Battery sequence to Step 1 to avoid confusion. Right now they're just copies of the overview, but we're going to fix that. Now that we have more than one sequence, we can define the flow for the user. Notice this star next to the overview sequence title. This indicates that overview is currently set to be the initial sequence, the one that loads first when new users load the instructions. These arrows on the sequences are for incoming connections on the left and outgoing connections on the right, meaning if I want my user to flow right into removing the battery after the overview sequence, I can just drag a connection. It's very easy to create linear flows this way, and you can come here and edit those at any time. Some projects will just be one sequence with no need for this, but projects can contain a lot of different ways to help your user get to what they need to know, and you can easily manage that here. One simple way to do that is a menu structure, so I'm going to set up a quick one now. I want my user to come to the menu first so they can decide whether to view the overview step or go right into instructions. You can see the star now indicating the menu is the start point. Now I'm going to select the menu step so that I can set that up how I want it. The 3D content on this step isn't really the focus of the menu page, but I do want to have the ventilator here just without the callouts and the arrows. I'm going to get rid of those. Now I want to focus on the overlay or user interface layer of this step. This area in the dotted line shows a preview of what the overlay looks like for the current step. We didn't really need anything for the overview step, but I'm going to set up a menu now using the UI editor. First, select a template. There are quite a few options here, but for now a title menu is perfect. I can just go down the list of items and fill in the blanks. When I set up an option for the overview, I can just pick the sequence and step that this will link to. I'll do the same for the remove battery sequence. And I'm going to add an install battery option here also and just leave that without a link for now. The rest can be disabled, And now we have a title menu step with functional buttons that will allow users to get where they need to go. Okay, so now let's animate some instructions. I want to remove the battery from this device in 3 steps. I'm going to copy this ventilator, then use the quick access at the top to switch to the remote battery sequence, and then on step 1, delete this content and paste in the new one. Now I want to remove these 2 screws at the rear of the unit, but because I want to animate this, I'm going to open up the timeline editor. Anything that's animated in a step is controlled here. So I'm going to just select these 2 screws, hit the record button, and move them a good distance out and stop recording. As you can see, each object now has a time bar animation on it, and you can see the result by scrubbing along the timeline. I can change the duration of these animations by adjusting the length or move them to determine when action should occur. I can also add effects directly right on the timeline, like a color change and this highlight effect. Then selecting the time bars lets me adjust the effect's colors and scale. Then I can duplicate the effects, adjust the timing, and I'm good to go. Then I can set the loop point and hit play to preview the effect playing back. Now that my 3D content is set up for this step, I'm going to set up my overlay. This time I'll pick a content template, which is pretty standard. Just like with the menu template, I can just fill in the blanks. And now that my first step is done, I can use the quick access toolbar to create a new continue step, which will make a new step after this one in the sequence that starts where this one left off. So these screws are already removed. I'm just going to delete them since we won't need them on this step. I'll update the overlay for this step since it's open, and then animate the battery cover in a similar way. A quick preview, and I'm ready to continue to the next step, where I can remove the battery. In this case, I'm going to add a warning strobe effect, and then add a checklist item to the step to ask the user to scan the barcode on this battery to ensure it's tracked properly. I'll add this note to the instructions to warn the user that this is a required checklist item, and you can see the indication that a checklist item is present on this step. And now that we have our complete battery removal in place, I'm going to go back to the sequence editor to show you a fantastic shortcut. If I copy this sequence as before, I also get the option to paste it in reverse. This sequence now has those 3 steps running backwards and in reverse order, which means I just made an install battery sequence. I'll have to go back in and update the text to reflect the new usage, but this can be a huge time saver in your projects. Now I'll just go back into the menu overlay, set up that link that I didn't fill out before, and now I'm ready to try this basic project out. I can do that right here in Create by hitting the play button at the top here, but I'm going to go ahead and hit the Publish button. A few seconds to upload, and now this instruction is available in the cloud for my users. Before I close out though, I might just share this new Create project with my team so they can make any changes that are needed if I'm not available. And now that I've published, I'm going to grab my iPad and load those up. As you can see, the instructions are immediately ready to download. And I can see my menu, walk into that overview step, navigate back into the instructions, and walk through all those steps immediately. Thanks for joining us today for a look at the all-new WorkLink Create. We look forward to working with you.
You asked, we listened. There is so much more coming down the pipe as we continually evolve and make our customers' outcomes even better. I look forward to continuing to blaze a path and to being your long-term partner in bringing enterprise augmented reality to its full promise. Thank you, and I am so excited to see what we can create together.